welcome to this explainer. Today we're tackling a profound and often totally silent struggle that affects millions of people who dedicate their lives to helping others. We're going to be diagnosing that deep, heavy emotional exhaustion that caregivers face and exploring how to effectively reframe and heal it. To do this, we'll draw on some absolutely incredible insights from healthcare expert Leanne Thiemann, the renowned psychologist Viktor Frankl, and the comforting wisdom found in Christian scripture. If you've ever felt just completely drained by the relentless demands of caring for someone else, well, this explainer is designed exactly for you.
Okay, let's dive right into this incredibly stark and painful thought, no one cares. It's such a heavy, isolating phrase, right? But it's one that so many caregivers, whether you're a professional clocking into a long shift or a family member looking after a sick relative at home, experience when you are pushed to the absolute brink. It's like this dark cloud that rolls in when the exhaustion just becomes way too much. But what's really happening when this thought enters our minds?
Well, pastoral clinical counselor Friar John Baptist suggests that we need to look a little deeper. When you strip away that immediate surface exhaustion, this is the real, hidden question beneath that feeling of total invisibility. When you catch yourself thinking, no one cares, what your heart and mind are genuinely vulnerably asking is, does my life and service have meaning? It's a massive shift in perspective. You aren't just tired, you're actually questioning the very purpose of your sacrifice.
Section 1. The spiritual symptom.
To truly unpack that question, we first have to diagnose the condition accurately. And healthcare expert Leanne Thiemann points out a really crucial difference here. We so often confuse physical exhaustion with spiritual stress. Physical exhaustion is frustration, it's bodily tiredness, it's the fact that you desperately, literally just need a good night's sleep or a weekend off. But spiritual stress? That is a much deeper wound. That's the devastating feeling that your efforts, your personal pain, and your very presence simply no longer matter to anyone. It's a crisis of significance, not just a crisis of energy.
Caregivers face what you could call a perfect storm of vulnerabilities. Because you're constantly attending to the needs of others, it almost inevitably leads to neglecting your own emotional and spiritual well-being. Add to that a widespread absence of appreciation, limited structural support, and responsibilities that just keep piling up, and honestly, it's no wonder you might begin to feel entirely invisible. You're constantly pouring from a cup that no one is refilling.
Which brings us to Section 2, Frankl's search for meaning.
So how do we treat this? We can build a treatment plan based on the groundbreaking work of psychologist Viktor Frankl. The crucial point here is this incredible psychological insight. The search for meaning is actually one of the deepest of all human needs. Frankl realized that people have this amazing, almost limitless capacity to endure suffering and difficulty. But there's a catch. You can only endure it when you remain connected to a purpose, a person, or a value that is greater than yourself. It's the why that makes the how bearable. When you have meaning, you have resilience.
However, Frankl also warned us about what happens when that meaning becomes clouded. You see, it isn't a sudden cliff you fall off. It's more like a cascading domino effect. It starts with your baseline stress. When the meaning fades, that stress degrades into a hollow feeling of emptiness. If you leave that unchecked, that emptiness ferments into resentment towards the people around you or the system you work in. And ultimately, that resentment hardens into absolute despair. And that despair, that is exactly what fuels the thought, no one cares.
Let's move to Section 3, Finding Divine Comfort.
So what do you do when human systems fail you? When that recognition is completely absent? Well, Christian scripture offers a really profound, soothing response to this specific spiritual wound. I want you to just pause for a second and really absorb this verse from 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Notice what this text does not do. It doesn't tell you to just cheer up. It doesn't deny the incredibly heavy burden you're carrying. Instead, it lovingly invites you to stop trying to carry it all by yourself.
This is the ultimate counter-narrative to no one cares. The reality presented here is that even when human recognition is totally absent, when your patient is too sick to thank you, when your family takes you for granted, or when your organization just treats you like a number on a spreadsheet, God's care remains entirely present. This divine comfort assures you that you are deeply seen, unconditionally valued, and cared for, even in the shadows.
Finally, Section 4. Reconnecting with your values.
Now, knowing you're seen spiritually is foundational, absolutely. But how do we apply this to the daily grind? As we zoom back into your everyday life, it's vital to note that Viktor Frankl doesn't suggest you just passively sit there and tolerate unhealthy or abusive conditions. Not at all. Instead, he empowers us with this incredible realization. Even when external circumstances cannot be immediately changed, we still have a choice. Our ultimate freedom lies in our ability to choose our response, regardless of how trapped we might temporarily feel by our caregiving duties. You can actively push back against the burnout by taking these 3 practical steps derived straight from Frankl's insights. First, reconnect with the original values that inspired you to serve in the first place. Remember your initial why. Second, actively seek out relationships and communities where you are genuinely seen and supported. Please don't isolate yourself. And third, fundamentally recognize that your inherent worth as a human being is not determined by how much praise or validation you receive from those you care for.
When we look at it through this lens, the feeling that no one cares should never just be ignored or brushed aside. Instead of viewing this spiritual stress as a personal failure or some sort of weakness, treat it as a massive warning light on your dashboard. It's an invitation to pause what you're doing, to actively receive care for yourself, to speak honestly about your struggles, and to rediscover your meaning. Because healing truly begins when we remember that the caregiver, too, is held in care.
I want to leave you with this final, really provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer today. You spend your days, your energy, and your heart caring for them. You know their value. But will you allow yourself to be cared for? I urge you to take these insights, reflect on your own spiritual stress, and extend the exact same profound compassion to yourself that you so freely give to others. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and please, take care of yourself.